Chair Williams, we do have all members present that were expected, so whenever you are ready, it looks like we have a little less than a minute, but till 10 o'clock.
Great, thank you, Rhonda.
Welcome.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'd like to call our Mountain Lion Board meeting to session on Wednesday, April 17th, 2024, 10 a.m. Via Zoom, and also those present in the Mountain Lion Bureau room here in Flagstaff. Before we begin, just to remind everybody that the Board of Directors may vote to hold an executive session for the purpose of obtaining legal advice from Mountain Lion's attorney on any matter listed on the agenda pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 38-431.03A3. The executive session may be held at any time during the meeting, and executive sessions are not open to the public pursuant to Arizona open meeting laws. That being said, Rhonda, if you would do roll call, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chair Williams and members of the board. City of Flagstaff, Deborah Harris.
Here.
Thank you. Coconino County, Judy Begay.
Here.
Thank you. City of Flagstaff, Miranda Sweet.
Here.
Thank you. NAU, Josh Mayer.
Here.
Thank you. CCC, Tony Williams.
Here.
Thank you. We do have our attorney, Scott Holcomb, on Zoom.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. And guest, Mandia Gonzalez from Metro Plan for a special presentation.
Thank you. Here.
And we have members of Mountain Lion staff in the room here and on Zoom. I'll turn it back to you, Chair Williams. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rhonda. We'll start with item number 3 on our agenda this morning, and that would be the safety minute. Sam, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Today's safety minute is on work zone awareness. So according to the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, this week is National Work Zone Safety Week. Work zone safety is important not only to protect those who build and maintain our roads, but also to protect motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians. About 80% of those killed in crashes that occur in work zones are drivers and their passengers. Preventable rear-end collisions are the most common type of work zone crash. Simple things such as slowing down, obeying signs or flaggers, and preparing for lane restrictions can help keep everyone safe. Here are a few tips from the Arizona Department of Transportation that are helpful when driving in or around the work zone. Expect the unexpected. Normal speed limits may be reduced. Traffic lanes may be restricted and people may be working on or near the roadway. Keep a safe distance. The most common type of accident in a work zone is a rear-end collision. Maintain 2 car lengths between you and the car in front of you, as well as the road crews and their equipment. Do not drive distracted. Dedicate your full attention to the roadway and avoid changing radio stations, having conversations, or using cell phones while driving in a work zone. Be patient and stay calm. Remember, crews are working to improve the road and your commute. Check the road conditions before you travel. Schedule enough time to drive to your destination safely without being or feeling rushed. Please use these helpful tips while operating a vehicle in or around work zones. Not only will they keep you safe, but will keep our road workers and other motorists safe as well. Thank you and welcome to the April board meeting.
Thank you, Sam. Item number 4 is milestone anniversaries. Heather.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. So I'm going to start with the individual on the right-hand side of the screen because Ken is actually here with us today. I'm going to have him stand up and say hello so the camera sees him for a moment. Ken began with Mountain Line as a transit operator in 2014. He's held several positions with us, including trainer, where he developed many of the Mountain Line operators that are still with us today. Ken works mostly behind the scenes, building driver schedules and route mapping solutions that are key to trip planning needs of our riders. Ken is extremely organized in all he does, coordinating special events and keeping operations moving forward through strategic planning. Ken is a key asset to Mountain Line, and we are grateful for his significant contribution to our services. So congratulations, Ken, on your 10 years with Mountain Line. Thanks for being here today. There are 2 other milestone anniversaries. The first is on the left-hand side of your screen. Jeff is celebrating his first year as a transit operator. Jeff joined us a year ago, coming from work at the national parks. He performed as an operator in our paratransit fleet while working on his CDL. He's now qualified to operate both fixed route and paratransit and is a true dedicated team member. He's committed to safety and customer service, and we are grateful for his patience while training and his persistence in achieving his CDL. And in the middle of the screen is Jordan. Jordan is also celebrating his first anniversary as a mechanic assistant. Jordan has been Mountain Line's #1 fan as a rider for many years. While doing a job fair at the Connection Center, he expressed interest in working for Mountain Line. And our mechanic team suggested that Jordan could contribute to our fleet program. Jordan can tell you near everything about near every bus we have ever operated, and is regularly found sharing smiles around the building. He can even tell you the odometer readings of the vehicles that were retired 10 years ago. He loves the buses. He does a fantastic job of assisting our team with completing bus detailing work, and we are looking for ways to advance his training and skills with the potential of having him assist with additional maintenance duties like vehicle inspections and topping off fluids. So these are our 3 anniversaries for April, and thank you for giving me a few moments to share and celebrate them.
Thank you, Heather, and congratulations to all 3. And a special congratulations to Ken. 10 years is a wonderful milestone, and glad to have you present here today with us at the board meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Ken has work to do.
All right. Item number 5 on our agenda is a call to public. Rhonda.
We do not have any members of the public here to speak, nor did we receive any written public comments via email. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rhonda. Now we're to approval of the minutes for March 27th, 2024. Board members, I cater a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Minute approval to move minutes have been passed. Now it's a privilege to move to item 7 for MetroPlan Route 66 operational assessment. We have a special guest with us today, Mandia Gonzalez from MetroPlan, where she's a transportation planner. Welcome, Mandia. Glad to have you join us today, and we're looking forward to your presentation. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Chair Williams and members of the board. I'm very excited to share this project with you. I'm just going to pretty much give you a little overview of what the purpose is in the project, and then kind of where we are in the planning process right now and how it relates to Mountain Line. So I do have room at the end of the slides to take questions, but if you have any burning questions, feel free to jump in and interrupt. No problem there. All right. And thank you, Rhonda, for advancing the slides. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide, please. All right. So this operational assessment is being conducted by MetroPlan on behalf of the city of Flagstaff, and we are assessing 4 miles of West Route 66, essentially from Milton Road all the way to I-40. And this planning effort is looking at the current conditions of how the roadway is operating, and then looking towards the future. I'm sure you're aware, if you're over on that side of town, there's a lot of development happening along the corridor. And so we're really trying to get an idea of how this new influx of people and businesses will impact the roadway and its operations here in the near future. Additionally, the city is updating their regional plan through a variety of future scenarios. So we're working in tandem with city staff so that we can use the data and the community feedback that's coming out of the regional plan to evaluate the different possible futures and those related impacts to the roadway. Next slide. And this is just a little bit more context on the roadway. This really is a multi-jurisdictional effort. ADOT is the primary roadway owner. The county does own a small portion out towards I-40. And then, of course, the city is responsible for land use and zoning and implementation of 419 funds, which some have been allocated to West Route 66. And that's indicated by that orange line on the map. And then, of course, we have Mountain Line as our transit operator. Next slide, please. So the end product of this planning effort will be a project recommendation or projects that meet the funding requirements of those 419 tax initiative funds, with the intent that these tax dollars be leveraged by the city to move forward with roadway improvements that respond to that future growth. Now, the future growth along the corridor, of course, is uncertain. So we will be evaluating our findings of the operations along the roadway. And just for clarification, we're looking at both vehicles and people, so people who are walking and biking. So we'll be looking at those operations along the roadway within the regional plan's proposed future scenarios. So ultimately, what we are looking for is a solution that responds best to all the future scenarios, because obviously, things are very uncertain at this time. Next slide. So in addition to assisting the city with their 419 funds and identifying that project, this end product will also provide further guidance to Mountain Line on the potential expansion of Route 8. So your 5-year plan, Flagstaff in Motion, has proposed some bus stop locations and amenities along West Route 66. So we'll be using these future scenarios, and once we get closer to honing in on a project or those projects, we can then analyze how the roadway improvements impact these potential bus stop locations and make decisions on the proper spacing from intersections where bus pullouts should be, and also get a better sense if the bus stop locations are appropriately placed to accommodate that future population and the needs along the corridor. So next slide, please. And I just want to give you a little overview of the overall goals of this planning process. So the scope of work was developed by MetroPlan's Technical Advisory Committee. And to conduct this planning effort, we also have a project advisory group made up of staff of our jurisdictional partners, including Mountain Line. So the PAG is really there to ensure we can create this implementable plan that responds to these future community needs, but also meets these goals that were established by our TAC. So I'll just kind of run through these really quickly. We're obviously looking at identifying multimodal and transportation improvements to the corridor as a whole. As I mentioned, looking at those bus stop locations and that future Route 8 extension, addressing those future transportation needs. Once again, comparing current conditions to what the possible future can bring. We are prioritizing our projects through an evaluation process that's really set on both local, regional, and state policy standards and guidelines. And I'm actually going to dive into that a little bit more here in just a second. We really want to create a plan that's implementable by all our jurisdictions, hence why we have this full multi-jurisdictional project advisory group to ensure that we can make it to that goal. And then identifying projects in existing plans, that are related or on West Route 66 to see how they might fold into this planning process or if they're eligible for future federal funding. Next slide. And just here's where we are in the process. We're about halfway through. We're right now we finalized our criteria with the PAG, and then we're going to be moving into testing this scoring methodology that our project advisory group has approved us to do. So I wanted to jump into some of the criteria because I think that would be of the most interest to you all. So next slide. All right, so just to kind of give you a little overview of this criteria, and specifically looking at transit, where transit comes into consideration. So through this process, we worked with our project advisory group to really kind of start at this high level, looking at these broad policies and values that are shared amongst our partners and our community. And then we're bringing them down. So in this next section, I'm going to kind of just highlight some of those high level elements, and then we'll move into some of the details. Next slide. All right. So the group put together these 4 distinct policy buckets. And then to the side of those buckets is where we get into some more of those details. So I'll just quickly go through these. We have our broad principles and goals. We have operations, elevating bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, and then cost and investment. And transit-related criteria really falls into those first 3 buckets. And in the next slide, if you want to move over, we'll jump into some of that. So starting with our broad principles, looking at equity, how this responds to transit really comes in 2 forms. And I'm going to focus on kind of what our performance trends or targets are, which are on the far right column there for you. So number 1, we want to increase transit routes and stops within a 1/4 mile of disadvantaged communities. And we want to increase access to transit within a 1/4 mile of legally binding affordable housing units, in which there are some existing and there are some planned here for in the future. Next slide. Under operations, we have managed mobility. This is looking at how people move in and through the corridor. Related to transit, the trends we would like to see are increased ridership and maintaining or improving level of service. Next slide. Great. In addition to mobility, we have managing accessibility under operations as well. This one focuses more on the surrounding roadway network and how we can support connections that make it easier for people outside of vehicles to access the corridor. So we're looking at increasing levels of service for transit, walking, and bicycling, and increasing that non-auto mode share. Next slide. Great. And lastly, we have elevating bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, which again supports people accessing and connecting to transit, but with the emphasis on getting them, obviously to transit via biking and walking. So this is the last of the transit-specific criteria. There are, of course, several more criteria that do feed into this process and support transit in other ways. So our next step moving forward is to test this criteria scoring method that our project advisory committee just approved. And then a component of that is also for us to conduct a survey to gauge the community's values around these criteria. So their input will be included in this final evaluation process as we continue to move forward. And next slide, I believe that is it for me. I'll open it up for any questions or comments you might have.
Mandy, thank you very much for this presentation. Extremely helpful for our board to know this from that perspective. I know in other Metro Plan meetings, it's more macro. This puts a different spin on it for me anyway. So I do appreciate that focus. Do we have any questions from my fellow board members?
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams. This question is for Mandy. The bike lane, 33.8 miles. Where is that what area is that being proposed at? Or what are you looking at right now?
So right now we're just looking at connectivity to the corridor. So I know that there are some bike trails related to Foots on the more northern side of our study area, so near the railroad tracks. I believe that is a priority area for the city. As far as funding those goes, I'm not really sure at this moment, but we certainly are looking at how we can increase those connections to and along West Route 66.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board members? Hearing none.
Another
Go ahead.
Another question is, this is a plan that's, a multi-jurisdictional. So Ada County and who else was involved? I didn't get all the information.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the city as well.
City, county, and ADOT.
And Mountain Line.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
All right. Any other questions? I think who else is in the Vera room with you? Heather, is that Director Mayer?
Yes.
Trying to see who's present and who's on Zoom.
Yeah, so we have Supervisor Begay and Director Mayer here in the room, and Director Sweet, I believe, is on the phone.
Great.
And is Harris there as well?
Yeah.
And
I'm on the
Director
call.
Great. So just for the record, it was Director Begay that was asking those questions.
Harris.
Great, thank you. Hearing no more questions from the board, really is an honor to have you here today, Mandia. Wonderful presentation. Certainly look forward to perhaps updates as things progress. I think Mountain Line with the board members here would definitely appreciate seeing how that moves forward in the future. So thank you very much for being here.
Of course. Thank you all. Have a good morning, everyone.
Yes.
Okay, moving along this morning, we're on to our consent agenda, item number 8. I would cater to accept a motion to approve our consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Director
Second.
Mayor, move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second,
Was that Director Begay?
yeah.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, we're moving on to our discussion and action items for today. First on our list this morning is number 9, the fiscal year 2023 financial audit report. And I believe Heather is going to present on this for us today. Heather.
I am, and I will beg forgiveness now as Josh had prepared this and I don't have his talking notes. So I'm winging it. Sorry, pulling up the staff report. The fiscal year 2023 financial audit report was completed by our contractor, Fester and Chapman, who has done our review or audit now for several years and is contracted by Mountain Line to do so. We did go ahead and file the report. I want to acknowledge that now. The report is required to be filed by March 31st in order to remain compliant with our federal or single audit portions of the report. So this is a post filing action that we are seeking from the board. But per the staff report that's in your packet, the following conclusions were reached in the process of the audit. There were no instances of non-compliance. There were no transactions entered into during the year without appropriate authorization. All significant transactions were recognized in the financial statements in the proper period. Reasonable estimates were developed by staff for amounts due to other governments and for depreciation of assets. There were no difficulties experienced with management and staff. There were also no disagreements. Construction and other significant commitment statements has been included, listing committed capital contracts currently awarded, and that has been that statement's added due to the large number of federal funds that we have committed into our contracts right now with our big projects going on. Mountain Line continues to qualify as a low-risk auditee, and we did not consult anyone for a second opinion. There were two notations located on the second page of the staff report. One is to be sure that in future, we are recognizing retiree benefits in our financial statements. It's not a cash flow issue. It is strictly an asset and liability notation. We have one retiree. It is insignificant to our overall, but of course we could have more retirees in the future, and it is appropriate to recognize that. So we will be working with NAPAP, Northern Arizona Public Employee Benefit Trust, to help us calculate and capture that in the future. And then secondary to that, years ago, when we would do construction, we would capture the retainage owed to the contractor on our financial statements, and we failed to do that this term. It's been several years since we had a construction project, and quite honestly, we just overlooked it. So it was advised that we make sure we capture that in the future. So with that, I would be seeking the board approval of the financial audit as included in your packet. Of course, if you have questions, we can invite Fester Chapman in, and Josh should be back next month, and we'd be happy to address any questions.
Thank you, Heather. I don't have any questions, but perhaps my fellow board members may have questions for you on this action item. Directors. Hearing none, I will welcome a motion to approve the recommendation of the fiscal 2023 financial audit report, which was completed by Fester and Chapman PC and filed as required by March 31st, 2024.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 10. I also believe Heather is going to be presenting on the fiscal year 2025 capital budget. Heather.
Thank you. So this is the third of the budget presentations. So we've talked about salaries and benefits, we've talked about operating and maintenance, and this is the last section of our expenditure budget, which is our capital projects. So you can see here, line by line, kind of grouped into major categories. Our capital budget for fiscal year 2025 is proposed to be over $70 million. And that is because we have 100% of the Downtown Connection Center construction project being completed in 2025. And then we have the Caspar property facility, the maintenance facility project here, also shown as being completed. We know that we probably won't complete 100% of it, but wanted to create capacity in case it gets moving really quickly. We do have under vehicle replacement a couple of buses, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. I have details on each of these actually. So first last mile is a budget of $6.7 million. This is something we've been working with the city of Flagstaff on for several years. What we recognize is actually the grant revenue that we have applied for and received as an award from the Federal Transit Administration to support the city effort. So we have the procurement for the contractor. The city of Flagstaff is actually matching this project with non-transit funds. So just to illustrate a couple of things that will be captured in that project is sidewalk improvements, road crossings and bikeways. And this is all designed to improve access to the transit system by making these first and last mile improvements. Secondary is the Downtown Connection Center. I hope no one's shocked to see that. The administrative building is coming right along. The total budget for completion is 35 million. And this is all phase one, the administrative building, just want to clarify. The Caspar Maintenance Facility is the project is more new to what we are doing. We're currently in design work and review with the city. It's 21.5 million. It will allow us to create improved maintenance facilities. So if you would like a tour of the building, I can show you the maintenance facility, which currently has buses half in, half out while they're being worked on, which can be difficult in our snowy conditions or rainy conditions. So we're excited to bring this improvement online and make this improvement for our team members as well as for our vehicles. This will also accommodate the plans to transition to zero emission vehicles with improved work environments for battery access and other things. We do include vehicle funding in here. So this is 2 more replacement buses, paratransit vans, and then maintenance and overhaul of existing vehicles. I will tell you right now, it is budgeted for these to be battery electric buses because that's what the zero emission transition plan calls for. As you know, Busy gave an update on performance last month. We have this on the May agenda to talk about how are we doing with that progress on zero emission transition plan and confirm the board's commitment to making this purchase as battery electric. Of course, if board direction is to buy hybrids, we have plenty of capacity in this budget. So the budget was to create capacity for the battery electric because we have to assume that's what we're going to do until we are directed otherwise. We also have budget capacity for doing charging infrastructure. So we have one of those chargers. Is it identical to that one?
Very similar.
That charger that's above the bus is going in here on our main property to start doing fast charging. They'll charge from above through a contact pad. This budget capacity allows us to build 2 more of those, one at our Downtown Connection Center and one at a location either to be identified or also at the Downtown Connection Center. The goal is to allow these buses to charge throughout the day so that we get a full service day out of them. Again, if the decision is not to move forward with battery electric buses as part of our zero emission bus transition plan, we would have the budget capacity, but we would not expend the funds. And the last one is bus stops, new locations and refurbishment of existing. This is something we really do every year. We try and evaluate what could we do as improvements. If you recall, we've had some conversations about infrastructure at bus stops. The board has participated in that. I think our last one was in October. And this is really the funding needed to advance that project. And again, all told, about 70 million. There are a couple items I didn't have slides for because there's no pictures, like planning studies. It's kind of a boring picture. But it is here. We need those funds, training software. We need those funds. Most of this 70 million is already secured, 80% funding from the Federal Transit Administration. We do not authorize capital projects that are pending federal investment until we have the federal investment awarded. There are some here that are 100% local, but it's pretty insignificant to the overall 70 million. And with that, I'll be happy to try and answer any questions you have. And of course, Josh will be presenting at the May meeting on revenues. And so we could always revisit any of these expense line items at that time too.
Thank you, Heather. Maybe I missed it. There is going to be this is not an action item today. This is just an information item for the board, if I recall. What month will it be when we finalize all of this?
Yeah, so the next steps for the budget is we'll present to the joint board and TAC in May, kind of the revenues necessary to support the 3 expenditure budgets that we have overviewed. And we will have a full detailed ALI available for board members as well at that same meeting. Then in June, at the June 26th meeting, we will be asking for the board to adopt the budget.
Great, thank you very much. You might have mentioned it. I just didn't pick up on it in your presentation. Other members of the board, do you have questions? Hearing none, I think we can move forward at this time. Heather, thank you very much. And I know you stepped in to fill in for Josh this morning, so way to take that audible. Appreciate it. The next item is number 11, and that's to expand the reduced fare program. Because there are several of our regular board members not able to attend today, in the importance of this particular item, I'm electing to move this, table this to a later meeting, and the plan is to put that into the May meeting. Is that right, Heather?
Yes, we are going to put this on the May board agenda, yeah, so the board and TAC will see it together.
Okay, so we won't be discussing or taking action on this item on this day, this item today, in order to give our other regular board members an opportunity to ask questions and be a part of that decision-making process.
Yeah.
Do we
Uh,
have to take?
so-
Excuse me?
Chair, just for the record, to make the record complete, what's the date of the meeting? This is gonna be cabled to which meeting? And what's the exact date of that? Or Heather or Rhonda, if you can provide that?
Yes, it will be tabled to May 15th.
I make a motion that we table this item to the May 15th meeting.
So Chair Williams, did you have a motion to table?
do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes to table this item to our May 15th, 2024 board meeting. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Moving right along, number 12 on our agenda. This is the commercial driver's license CDL course project. Ann Dunno is our capital development manager and will be presenting on this. Is that correct, Heather?
Yes, she's ready to go.
And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Williams. Good morning, members of the board. Ann Gunno, Capital Development Manager. This is a project closeout for the commercial driver's license project. There's no recommendation at this time, but just sharing the latest status. This project, if some of you recall, is a partnership project with NAU, that NAU Transit Group. We partnered to develop a CDL course that can be used for testing and training. So the whole goal around this project is really for workforce development, to help attract and retain our operators and be utilized for updates on training when as needed with incidents and just to keep operators in compliance. So the project is actually located on NAU South Campus, right behind the NAU Capital Facility Building. Sure. Does this have a pointer on? No. Oh, okay. Well, everyone can see the red square. That's the CDL course, and you can see the Pine Knoll, if you're familiar with NAU campus. There's NAU Capital Facility Building, so it's south of there. In that kind of backfield area, there's a large transmission line, and that is where we put the course. It is a great location for a concrete pad. So the latest on the construction status, we did achieve substantial completion in March, which was, took us a little bit longer than expected, just kind of getting through a lot of process, and but we're here now. The APS, as of actually last Friday, the APS agreement was signed. So towards the middle to end of the project, it was identified that we needed to work with APS to raise the transmission lines and then also develop this agreement because it's an easement that is on NAU property. So we did get that fully executed, which was excellent, which means we can actually start using the course. And the final completion is tracking in May. We do have a few little items that the contractor will be working on, but we can stay out of the way of any of the users. We need our gate to go in to kind of block the entrance. We're working on a seating canopy that's not under the APS transmission lines. The striping, is a big milestone. We're having that done this coming week because ADOT, the certifier, is coming up from Phoenix to work with us and get that certified course, which is a big goal for, the training teams. Working on some, spring hydro seeding and whatnot, and then get it all nice and clean for our ribbon cutting in May that, Jackie Leonard is planning, May 22nd. A little bit more about the CDL course layout. So it's this large concrete pad, and we call them carousels. They're going to be striped, and there's a very unique striping that's required with ADOT. That'll be utilized. So this course essentially, Mountain Line will own and manage the course. And we're developing SOPs for scheduling, but essentially you can come out and schedule use of the course, and this is a shared use with NAU. So NAU and Mountain Line have priority out here. But they can come out and utilize the course, do what they need to do, and hopefully help keep their programs moving. Oops, there's a little bit, actually, a couple other items with the operations and maintenance aspect. So again, this is a facility owned by Mountain Line. And we have an agreement with NAU that for operations and maintenance, we're going to be splitting those costs. So we'll be working on an annual, working with NAU kind of on an annual basis to work through the costs and develop that 50-50 split, but any revenue that is generated from third-party use, which is called incidental use, we are allowed to have incidental use out here. For example, CCC's program is planning to use the course. So any revenue collected from third parties will go directly to maintain the course specifically. That includes snow removal, that includes fix and repair concrete, striping refreshes, things like that. And then finally, the costs, and we can provide an update once everything is closed out. The final costs were coming in close, about 1.4 million for design. Some of that actually included the original, if you all recall, we actually had developed a bus storage and maintenance facility located further south. That project was shelved essentially, but we did develop a design for that. And so that 1.4 million covered some of that, and then the course design here. The construction is coming in close to about 4.9 million, and then the project management and permit related fees around 375,000. And with that, I will welcome any questions anyone may have about the course or.
And thank you for this presentation. I think this is just a great example of a very important collaborative and creative partnership that many partners and whatnot, not just NAU and Mountain Line, but others can benefit from this as well. And I think this is just one of those milestones in our community where we've partnered and we've identified others to help make something that's really important happen. And to see that we're gonna have a ribbon cutting soon and getting this off the ground and running is just fantastic. So really appreciate your update and sharing where things are at. Other members of the board, do you have questions or comments to share at this time?
Chair Williams, I do.
Floor is yours.
Thanks for the presentation. You mentioned maintenance. Could you clarify for me who is responsible for maintenance?
Sure, absolutely, for Mountain Line. So actually, the gentleman over there, Jeremiah McVicker, our maintenance manager, we have a plan. So under the agreement with NAU, so Erin Stong, her team, we have essentially a committee that's developed that Erin will have a couple of representatives on. Mountain Line, Jeremiah and myself, will be monitoring the costs and evaluating, but again, preparing and so working through it with Erin to develop. Right now, we have a rough estimate of around, I think I'm going from memory, 25,000 a year. So splitting that, but we're anticipating some of the revenues received will help, cover some of that. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's the plan right now, but that's the approach through that agreement with NAU.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions?
All right, hearing none, and really do appreciate your time today and walking us through this. And am I correct? There's no action on this. This was just the FYI information item.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Moving right along in our agenda today, the good news is that we're probably going to get through this what's left here pretty quick and be able to adjourn sooner than we normally do. But I also know that Heather likes to share out some summary of current events. So Heather.
Yes, thank you. So I just have a few brief items to share with you. Let's skip these first couple because I realized I already shared them with you last month. So school bus pass program with the school district. I want to clarify that everything on this slide is all K through 12 passes, but the purpose, the real reason we're giving this update is because of that new partnership with the school district. So you can see from the period of January 1st, when we really implemented this program with the school district in March 18th, we've had some significant increases to what we call our school pass program. Spring semester passes, almost 2 times the use from prior measurement periods. 174 passes are being used every day. That's compared to 90 passes in 2023. 356 individual passes. So I don't know who those individuals are, but I know that pass number XYZ and that pass number ABC are 2 different people. 180% increase over 2023, and really 97% of those trips are occurring on weekdays. I think the most telling thing is that all routes are being used to support these programs. 127 stops have student activity at them. So that really means 77% of our total system is being used by our K through 12 students in this community. We are seeing ridership increases on our routes, not on NAU, the routes that these students are using. And I just want to say that Route 2, which serves 3 of these schools, is still in reduced service, and we're seeing increased ridership on that route. So we feel very much like this shows that the program is successful. We are not getting a lot of complaints. I think we met with the superintendent about a month ago. He too said they are not getting a lot of negative feedback from parents about this program. And we are starting to talk about what is the next evolution of this PASS program with the school district. Aggravated assault, I shared with you, there is a bill before the state that would make transit workers defined as aggravated assault. So if a driver was assaulted while performing duties, it would automatically be an aggravated assault. The bill has passed both House committees and received a 53-3 approval on the House floor vote. It did go to 2 separate Senate committees, also has passed both of those, and it is on for 3rd read today, which will include a full Senate vote. And we are very hopeful that it will get that full committee approval of the Senate today and be signed by the governor into law before this session is complete. And we are so grateful to our transit partners across the state that have really helped make this happen. I did go down for a visit in March for the first of the 2 Senate hearings. And in the photo, you can see here Bernice Tooley, our assistant operations manager, and Russell Beck, our operations supervisor, went with me to that hearing to testify, and were present to show how important this bill is to transit and transit workers. I want to acknowledge Kate Marmee and Metro Plan. The SMART Fund is a bill that was passed by Arizona more than a year ago to provide state funds to be used as match for transportation projects that are federally funded in rural Arizona. When the bill was introduced and passed, it was very clear that it could be used for any transportation project, including transit, but then it only was available to cities and counties, which was concerning to us who do not operate within a city or a county governance structure. And the challenge became that if we applied for the money as the federal recipient, the city couldn't go after the match for us because they weren't the federal recipient. And I couldn't go after the match myself because I was ineligible. And so we were caught in this weird quagmire. While Kate was still at Mount Line before she made the move over, she started talking about this conversation. But really, Kate and Metro Plan board have been instrumental in crafting language to modify the Smart Fund bill to ensure that transit and other federal grantees like MetroPlan are eligible for these funds. I am thrilled to report to you the governor signed that bill change last week. So the next funding cycle, October 1, Mountain Line will have access to state funding to use as match for our federally funded projects. And I wanted to share this because I am so grateful for Kate's leadership that really resulted in corrective language that is now in law. And the DCC, this is just a couple pictures of what you can see. Actually 2 weeks ago, if you drove by the DCC, sorry, these are a little bit old now, but as you can see, we have walls and we have windows and we have doorways. So it's a very exciting progress. It doesn't look exciting in the pictures, but staff here are just elated to go down there and see the building that we've all been dreaming of and working on since 2019 coming out of the ground. And we have one last anniversary to share. Teresa Sharon is a transit operator here at Mountain Line. She also serves as a relief operations supervisor, meaning she can step in and perform that duty on an as-needed basis. And we are happy to celebrate her 6 years here with us. And with that, Chair Williams, that is everything that I had for current events.
Great, thank you, Heather. And as the Mountain Line Board members representative on MetroPlan, just wanted to share with my colleagues today that at the last MetroPlan board meeting, I made an extra effort to compliment Kate with her contribution to the Smart Fund and the difference that is going to make for us here at Mountain Line as well as our community overall. So I think that's great to hear that the governor signed off on that. So appreciate that update, Heather.
Thank you.
Like I said earlier, our meeting is going to end early today. But our next board meeting is Wednesday, May 15th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It is an in-person joint meeting between the Mountain Line Board and TAC. We will be at the Flagstaff Aquaplex. And then our next regular board meeting will be on Wednesday, June 26th. And what I want to make everyone on the board realize that June 26th is a little bit later than normal in the month. So I wanted to draw extra attention to that. So pay attention to your calendars as we near the end of June. And with that, I think we are at a point where I cater a motion to adjourn our meeting today.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all for the meeting. We covered a lot of material in a short period of time. And look forward to seeing you all on Wednesday, May 15th at the Aquaplex. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.